Aiden Valeris woke abruptly as the research room's window shattered into countless tiny shards, glittering sharply in the pale blue light of planet Ellyth. Instinctively, his body jolted upright immediately, every sense snapping into maximum alertness, his heart racing so forcefully that he could clearly hear each beat echoing like war drums within his chest. The air in the room was frigid, cold enough that his breath came out in thin, delicate white wisps before his face. A sudden blast of icy wind rushed in, carrying sharp pieces of glass flying in all directions, some embedding themselves into his skin. Yet Aiden paid no attention to the small cuts now trickling blood down his arm. The instincts of a former military medic made his body instantly react to such unusual situations. Without hesitation, Aiden dashed swiftly toward the hallway, where flickering lights repeatedly signaled that something severely wrong had just occurred. And then he saw her. Right in the middle of the cold, elongated hallway of the research station, on the aged metallic floor reflecting the cold, bluish glow, the Xyler warrior named Liana had collapsed onto her knees, trembling uncontrollably. Her body swayed forward as if about to fall, her deep emerald eyes barely visible beneath tangled locks of platinum blonde hair that concealed her delicate yet terrifyingly pale face. Her silver battle armor shimmered strangely, severely bulging around her hips and thighs, each armor panel stretched taut, seemingly about to burst from the overwhelming internal pressure. One of her legs was bent beneath her, while the other shook violently as if unable to support the weight of her body. Aiden immediately recognized the critical nature of her condition, his heart filling instantly with anxiety. "Don't shoot," her voice was hoarse and weak, resonating faintly in the quiet corridor. She lifted one trembling hand weakly, trying desperately to stop his instinctive defensive reaction. "I need your help." Her last words were barely audible, just a strained whisper, and then she suddenly collapsed, her body going completely limp, almost slamming hard onto the floor. Aiden moved in a flash, swift as lightning, his arms swiftly wrapping around her, firmly supporting her soft, vulnerable form before she could fully hit the ground. Instantly, he felt an intense, searing heat radiating through her armor and transferring into his skin. Liana felt like a living flame. Her body was burning fiercely from within, her overheated skin alarmingly abnormal, causing Aiden's heart to tighten painfully in his chest. His eyes swiftly examined her with the sharpness and precision of a highly trained military medic, carefully noting every detail of her condition. The armor around her pelvic region was grotesquely swollen, and the stretchy fabric beneath appeared close to tearing apart under immense internal pressure, threatening to burst at any moment. Her breathing grew increasingly labored and desperate. "What happened, Liana?" Aiden asked urgently, his voice filled with worry yet mixed with the unmistakable strength and authority of a battle-hardened soldier. Liana shivered uncontrollably, biting her lower lip so fiercely that she nearly drew blood, struggling fiercely against the waves of pain cascading through her body. Her beautiful emerald eyes were now filled with deep desperation, mingled with embarrassment and hesitation, clearly uncomfortable with having to admit her predicament to Aiden. "Post-combat hormonal flare-up, my species. When adrenaline reaches peak levels, it triggers this physiological reaction, but this time, I can't control it anymore." Every word she spoke seemed incredibly heavy, difficult, as if she were fighting a losing battle against her own body just to remain conscious. Aiden's gaze slowly traveled down to her hips, his expression darkening slightly as he observed how her armor continued to swell, tightly pressing against the soft, graceful curves of Liana's body. A peculiar sensation ran down his spine. He was deeply concerned about her critical health condition, but also couldn't deny a faint, instinctive stirring within himself at the sight of the warrior woman's body beneath such tension. Yet at this moment the disciplined logic of a medic quickly took precedence. He spoke in a low, firm tone. "You're swelling rapidly. The internal pressure is dangerously high. Liana weakly nodded, looking up at him with pleading eyes, her voice exhausted and urgent. Yes, too quickly, too painfully. I need you to handle it immediately or I'll die. Aiden frowned deeply, his heart pounding even harder, the protective instincts of a soldier, a healer, surging strongly within him. He leaned closer, ensuring every word she spoke was clearly heard. What do you need me to do, Liana? At that precise moment, Liana's gaze became filled with anxiety and embarrassment, her pale cheeks flushing red from both shame and pain. She pressed her lips together briefly, speaking softly but resolutely. You need to touch it directly, my skin. It's the only way to release the built-up pressure. Her words sent a bolt of electricity shooting through Aiden's entire body, causing him to hesitate momentarily, recognizing immediately that her request went beyond all standard medical boundaries. He understood exactly what she meant. A feeling of unease mixed with unavoidable excitement began to rise inside him, stirring restlessly. But Aiden also knew clearly that if he refused to act now, Liana wouldn't survive. He had sworn an oath long ago to save lives at any cost, regardless of species or circumstances. Moreover, deep inside him, a profoundly human instinct awakened fiercely, the instinct to protect, shelter, and surpass personal boundaries to aid others in their moments of greatest need. All right, Aiden finally spoke, his voice strong and resolute, free of any hesitation. Swiftly, he slid one arm beneath her legs and the other around her back, lifting her up gently yet decisively. Her body pressed tightly against his, immediately enveloping him in scorching heat, radiating intensely, overwhelming every one of his senses. Aiden clearly felt every graceful curve of her figure, each rapid breath she took transmitting through his chest, a signal primal and undeniably powerful. Turning quickly, he began walking with determined strides toward the old medical room located at the back of the research station. He knew precisely that only there, equipped with necessary instruments and adequate privacy, could he handle this crisis efficiently and effectively. Each step was filled with unwavering strength and resolution. Although he strove to maintain logical clarity, deep within Aiden's heart, something new, profound, and intense was already awakening, waiting eagerly to reveal itself amidst this night fraught with tension and urgency. As Aiden gently laid Liana's trembling and burning hot body onto the worn medical bed, the faint creak of the springs echoed softly, mingling with their rapid breaths. The pale blue light from the ceiling lamp cast a dim glow, creating a space just private enough yet thick with tension. The cramped room only amplified the dense and intense heat radiating from the Xyler warrior's body. Liana lay on her back, her shimmering emerald eyes barely open, filled with pleading yet tinged with a hint of embarrassment as she fully realized the state she was in. Her tousled platinum hair framed her face, and her soft skin sparkled faintly under the gentle light. She tried to raise her trembling hand toward the chest armor, fingers fumbling to undo the rigid clasps, but they didn't budge at all, locked tight by a special protective mechanism triggered by her extreme physiological reaction. "My armor, it's completely locked," she whispered with difficulty, her full lips trembling. "You'll have to be stronger, take it off immediately." Aiden stood close by, his deep brown eyes intensely observing her every slightest expression, as if all his senses stretched out to catch every subtle signal from her body. Standing so near, he felt the fierce heat from her body radiating into the surrounding air, and a part of him struggled to suppress the tangled emotions, a mixture of worry and an inexplicable, restless stirring, quietly rising within. "Should I use a sedative to ease the pain?" Aiden asked, his voice gentle but filled with the authority and responsibility of a seasoned medic. "No," Liana shook her head decisively, her eyes wide open and glistening in the dimness. "The sedative would only slow the process of releasing the energy trapped inside me. I need to release it quickly, right now." Aiden took a deep breath, trying to steady his wildly beating heart, fully aware that this situation had far surpassed the limits of any ordinary treatment session. Though he reminded himself he was simply fulfilling his medical duty, deep inside he understood this was a fragile boundary between healing and intimate contact, a line that could easily be crossed at any moment. Leaning down, Aiden brought his strong, firm hands closer to Liana's body and began tracing the seams of her armor. His fingers moved slowly but decisively along the cold metal edges, where they touched the soft, scorching flesh beneath. The moment his hand brushed gently over Liana's lower abdomen, her body instinctively arched, and a deep, ragged breath escaped parted lips, a very soft primal moan. Aiden immediately froze, eyes flashing a moment of alarm as his voice, full of care and concern, rang out. "Does it hurt? Did I just hurt you?" Liana shook her head quickly, her platinum hair brushing softly against the white fabric of the medical bed. Her eyes briefly closed, then opened again, filled with chaotic emotions, a tangled mix of pain and pleasure. "No," she whispered, her voice strained but filled with yearning. "It's not pain, it's release. Please, Aiden, don't stop. Keep going." Her words ignited a new fire within Aiden's heart. The last flicker of hesitation vanished immediately, replaced by fierce determination and the rising instinct to protect and heal. His hands moved faster, skillfully undoing each metal plate of the armor. The sound of hard armor clinking against the floor echoed sharply as pieces fell away, gradually revealing Liana's beautiful, soft body beneath. Her pale, bluish skin was now flushed red with heat, her hips and thighs taut and swollen with pent-up energy. Aiden swallowed hard, his heart tightening painfully at the sight of her body gradually exposed before him. A smooth, white, burning flesh, full of vitality and undeniable femininity. He could feel the heat from her skin transferring into his hands so strongly that it sent tremors through his senses. Suddenly, Liana grasped his wrist tightly, her eyes pleading yet carrying an unprecedented fierce determination. "You need to touch my bare skin directly, Aiden. I need your body heat to balance the pressure inside me. Without it, I won't survive." At that moment, Aiden knew he had no reason left to hesitate or hold back. He felt every beat of his heart, more intensely than ever. Without further delay, he slid his strong, masculine hand between her thighs, making direct contact with the soft, burning flesh almost unbearable to touch. As soon as his hand touched that delicate, taut skin, Liana arched her back again, this time letting out a longer, deeper, and more primal moan than before. That sound, both painful and relieving, mesmerized Aiden, igniting all his senses, blending perfectly with her ragged breath. His own breath grew heavy, every subtle movement of his hand controlled carefully yet naturally, highly sensitive to every slight reaction from her body. He no longer tried to think about anything else. His entire focus was on bringing release to the beautiful woman beneath him, balancing on the razor edge between life and death. Liana gasped for air, eyes wide open, staring deep into his. A profound connection was forming between them, deeper and stronger than anything they had ever experienced before. The touches that began with Aiden's clinical, medical professionalism now transformed irresistibly, becoming more primal, more instinctual. The strong, calloused fingers of the former military medic were no longer just releasing dangerous biological pressure. Now they carried fierce, deep desires welling up from within. Liana's burning skin quivered beneath each firm caress, and gradually her body relinquished all resistance, shifting to wholly embrace each wave of heat and energy that his hands imparted. Aiden felt her Xylar warrior's body slowly relaxing, melting into his hands as if he alone could anchor her to existence in this moment. The air in the infirmary seemed to thicken and still. Only Liana's ragged breaths and his own strong, unsteady heartbeat echoed through the quiet space. He paused for a moment, eyes focused intently on the soft body beneath him. He lifted his head slightly, his warm, low voice murmuring just loud enough for Liana to hear. "Liana, I don't think this is just therapy anymore." Liana's emerald eyes slowly opened, gazing up at him. Gone now was any shyness or evasion. Her eyes reflected nothing but raw honesty and heartrending depth. Her soft lips trembled as she replied with unwavering certainty, "No, Aiden, you're right. This isn't therapy anymore. This is a biological connection, the deepest instinct, the only way my body can truly heal and survive." In that instant, both of them knew neither had the strength left to deny what was happening between them. There was no longer any need for justification, no more barriers to separate them. Liana, once the strong and independent Xyler warrior, was now simply a woman in need of his help, of the warmth and gentleness that only the man before her could offer. And Aiden, the battle-hardened medic who'd witnessed so much pain and loss on the battlefield, was now moved solely by a powerful, masculine instinct before the trembling woman in his arms. Without hesitation, Aiden lowered his head, pressing his lips to the hot, delicate skin of Liana's neck. Each kiss was both gentle and fierce, moving slowly along her shoulder, down her collarbone, each motion extinguishing the violent storms raging within her. Those kisses carried Aiden's strength and warmth, like cool, life-giving streams soaking into parched, cracked earth, easing her pain and tension bit by bit. Liana's body gave up all resistance, opening itself fully to every touch, every wave of warmth, every act of genuine care from Aiden. Her trembling fingers clung tightly to his shoulders, her rapid breath syncing with the powerful rhythm of both their hearts. Her platinum hair, now damp with sweat, clung softly to her cheeks, heightening her fragile, alluring beauty in his eyes. When the final pressure in her body was at last released, Liana instinctively clung tightly to Aiden's solid frame, pulling him as close as possible, terrified that if she let go, this precious warmth would vanish. Her whole body pressed against him, feeling every contour of the man holding her. A deep, intense bond began to form, a connection surpassing all reason, an invisible thread tying together their hearts and souls. Aiden could feel every hurried breath, every strong heartbeat of the woman in his arms. And in that very moment, he realized his own heart was pounding just as fiercely, not from fear or worry, but from a wholly new and overwhelming sensation. It was a feeling of unity, of an unbreakable bond, a sensation both of them had never experienced before, deeper than survival, stronger even than the instinct to live. Gently, Aiden lifted Liana's face, his gaze tenderly meeting hers. The moment their eyes met, every wall, every distance between them vanished. In Liana's eyes was absolute trust, profound gratitude for the man who'd saved her, not only physically, but who had also rescued her soul and heart. Aiden, without hesitation, slowly lowered his lips to hers, pressing into a kiss both gentle and passionate, a silent promise that from this moment nothing would ever come between them again. Liana returned the kiss with fervor and intensity, her body trembling in his embrace. They both became utterly lost in that sweet, charged moment, their breaths mingling as if that was the only sustenance they needed to survive. In that instant, they were no longer two separate beings, but fused together by an inevitable primal connection, awakening the deepest parts of their souls. Every breath, every heartbeat, every glance now confirmed an undeniable truth. They belonged to each other, and from this moment on, their lives would never be the same. The infirmary fell into a brief but meaningful silence after Liana's dangerous flare-up had been resolved. Yet in that fleeting moment of peace, harsh reality quickly returned to claim them both. Liana suddenly opened her eyes, worry flickering across her delicate face, as if she had just remembered something urgent and vital. Noticing the change in her expression, Aiden immediately understood that things were far from over. His gaze became serious, brows drawing together in tension. "What is it, Liana?" Liana slowly sat up, soft strands of platinum hair slipping over her bare shoulders, her emerald eyes reflecting exhaustion and anxiety. She bit her lower lip, looked deep into Aiden's eyes, her voice tinged with both wariness and unease. "Aiden, I'm afraid. We don't have much time. My pursuers will soon discover my location. The biological link between us leaves a trail that's easy to follow. To the Xyler, this kind of connection is like a beacon shining in the night. They'll track us down by that signal. It won't be long." Aiden instantly grasped the severity of the threat she'd named. His heart fell, not from fear for himself, but from the fear that he might not be able to protect the woman who had entrusted him with her deepest trust. But swiftly, the will of a battle-tested soldier who had survived countless dangers and hardships rose strong within him. He stepped closer, placing a steady hand on Liana's shoulder, meeting her eyes with determined sincerity. "No matter how strong they are, I won't let you face this alone. I didn't save you just for you to end up running again. From now on, we face this together. Whoever or whatever comes, I'll never let them harm you." For a moment, Liana's eyes widened, then softened, touched deeply. A warm, trusting light flickered in her anxious gaze. Through all her long years of fighting and survival, this was perhaps the first time Liana truly felt safe, not because she was in a fortified base, but because she was beside a man who was willing to fight for her to the very end. She placed her hand gently on his strong one, and a wave of warmth and peace flowed through her, soothing the anxieties that threatened to rise up. "Aiden, do you understand? Once you're biologically linked to me, there's no way back. They'll hunt me to the end. And now you'll become their target too. I've betrayed the system, now you'll be dragged into this war as well." Aiden's gaze didn't waver. It only grew stronger, more resolute. He clasped her small but fierce hand, his voice firm and unwavering, echoing clearly in the small room. "I understand that, Liana, but it's my choice. I choose to fight at your side, not because I don't know the danger, but because I know it all too well. Never think I'd abandon you. From now on, no matter what happens, we'll face it together, and we'll win together." Liana nodded softly, her heart beating faster, not from fear this time, but from profound emotion. A human man, a soldier who had seen so many wars and so much destruction, was willing to risk everything to protect someone like her, someone from a completely different species. That thought flooded Liana's heart with a new and wondrous feeling, something she never thought she'd experience. The two quickly prepared. Aiden, saying little, swiftly gathered necessary gear and weapons in the small room. He gripped his familiar pistol, checking each round with practiced, decisive hands, every movement that of a true warrior. Liana too stood, her soft yet strong body having recovered some, donning a light armor, just enough for protection, not enough to hamper her agility. Within minutes, they slipped out of the infirmary and into a dark, narrow corridor leading down to the secret bunker beneath Ellyth Station. Built as an emergency shelter, it now stood as their last hope. Outside, the frozen darkness of the ice planet loomed, along with relentless, merciless pursuers who would never give up. Aiden led the way, opening the heavy steel door. Inside, the bunker was small but solid, reinforced with superalloys, containing survival supplies and a backup communication system. When Liana entered behind him, the bunker door sealed tightly, enclosing them in a private space of safety amid infinite danger outside. In the dim light, they looked at each other, the sound of their breathing echoing in the close air. Standing there, side by side, they were ready to face whatever came next, a wordless bond stronger than any vow they had ever known. For from that moment on, they were no longer merely survivors, but two souls who had found each other in a vast universe, and they would never let anything tear them apart again. In the narrow space of the secret shelter beneath Ellyth Research Station, darkness wrapped around them like a thick blanket. The cold from outside could never reach this place. Here, there was only the warmth of two bodies pressed close together, gentle and peaceful in a rare moment of true safety. The atmosphere seemed to hold still. The only sound was the steady, calm, and deep breathing of Aiden and Liana. These moments became an oasis of peace in the midst of the storm of war and pursuit swirling around them. In the murky darkness, Aiden's fingers traced each soft curve of Liana's body, as if to assure himself that she was truly safe, truly right beside him. Her smooth skin trembled slightly under his loving, reverent touch, comfort spreading through her body, making her heart pound more fiercely in her chest. "Aren't you afraid, Aiden?" Liana whispered, her voice so soft yet echoing clearly in the cramped space, carrying a note of doubt and worry. Aiden gently tightened his embrace around her, pulling her even closer, as if wanting to give her every ounce of strength, determination, and safety he could offer. His voice rumbled deep, full of confidence and steadiness, the voice of a man who had weathered countless storms but had never given in to danger. "I'm not afraid, Liana. I chose you, and when I make a choice, I never turn back." Those words rang out with sincerity and resolve, piercing every last barrier in the Xyler girl's heart, reaching deep into her soul. Her emerald eyes fluttered shut for a moment, savoring the warmth and security brought by the man holding her so strongly. Since the start of her life of fighting and running, Liana had never imagined she'd one day find someone willing to stay by her side, even knowing what it might cost him. She gently rested her head on his chest, listening to the strong, steady beat of Aiden's heart echoing in her ear. Her slender, delicate fingers drifted over the firm, scarred skin of the man before her, as if engraving every precious second into her eternal memory. Her soft lips parted, letting out a sincere whisper carrying all the feelings she had for him. "Then from now on, we won't just fight together, we'll live together, Aiden. We won't just exist to resist our enemies, but to truly live, to love, and to cherish moments like this." Hearing those words, Aiden's heart warmed more than ever. He'd seen so much heartbreak and loss in his life, but never before had he felt so whole and strong. He bent down, his warm lips pressing gently to her elegant forehead, then trailing down to brush her lips in a kiss full of emotion and promise. In that instant, everything around them faded away, leaving only the profound connection between two souls, two hearts merged as one. Liana shivered beneath his gentle yet strong touch, her breath blending with Aiden's in a perfect harmony of unity. Every breath, every embrace, every kiss now meant more than ever before. Not merely gestures, but silent promises, an unbreakable vow that from this moment on, they would never again be alone. Aiden felt every quickened beat of Liana's heart, and knew he was experiencing the same feeling. Both of them had spent endless days in loneliness and uncertainty, but now, having found each other in the harsh current of life, they would never let go again. Love, the most powerful primal emotion, had bound them together, and it would be this love that gave them strength to overcome every challenge ahead. Liana lifted her gaze, looking deep into Aiden's dark, strong eyes, eyes full of emotion and honesty she could never look away from. She whispered softly, her voice a gentle melody echoing through the cramped space, creating an unbreakable promise. "No matter what dangers or trials lie ahead, no matter what we face, I'll never leave you. I'll always be by your side, Aiden, until the very last moment." Aiden felt his heart melt completely at her words, tightening his arms even more around her small, soft, yet strong body, as if to shield her from every threat lurking outside. His voice was gentle but resolute, as if swearing a sacred oath. "I'll never let you go, Liana. Even if I have to fight to the end, even if I must face the whole world, I'll protect you with everything I have." They fell into another deep kiss, letting the darkness enfold them, savoring every sweet, precious second. No more medicine, no more battle, only two souls blending as one, two hearts that had found each other in this vast universe. And in that rare moment of peace, they realized that from now on, they would not just live to fight, but live to love and to truly be alive, because now they were no longer alone. They had found each other. Footsteps echoed from far outside the bunker, metal clanging, the heavy thud of boots striking the cold steel floor. Those sounds grew clearer, closer with each passing moment. In that cramped, hidden space beneath the earth, Aiden and Liana stood side by side, their hands clasped tightly without hesitation. They gazed deeply into each other's eyes, eyes full of fierce determination, but also overflowing with love and absolute trust. Now they both knew the pursuit was no longer some distant, abstract fear. Their hunters were right above them, ready to break down the door, ready to burst in with weapons drawn. Yet strangely, neither felt afraid. Their hearts pounded only for one reason: the burning will to fight, the desperate longing to protect and hold onto the love they had found amid war and chaos. "Are you ready, Liana?" Aiden asked quietly, his voice warm, steady, and calm as always, his gaze never leaving hers. "I'm always ready, Aiden," Liana replied softly, her eyes shining in the darkness, radiating undeniable resolve. "We won't run anymore. We'll stand here, face them, protect what we have, and protect each other." Her words rang clear and strong, cutting through the stillness of the small bunker. Every word carried enormous spirit, a strength only true love could bring. Aiden felt himself fill with a fresh, powerful energy, stronger than any weapon he had ever wielded. A man who had seen countless battles, who had survived hundreds of brutal fights, now realized the greatest battle of his life was this one: the fight to protect the woman he loved, to defend the happiness they had found, and above all, to safeguard the future they had promised to each other. Aiden gently raised Liana's hand and pressed a reverent kiss to the back of her soft hand, his eyes full of love and fierce resolve. "I have seen so much loss, but I will never lose you. We'll win because we have each other. And to me, you are everything I need to triumph over anything." Liana smiled softly, her heart melting in her chest at his sincere words. She understood that, no matter what the future held, as long as this man stood beside her, she would never back down, never surrender. Because their love, a love born of fire, forged through storms, was the strongest force of all, greater than any boundary of race, circumstance, or war. The footsteps drew even closer, the harsh metallic sound ringing out like a warning bell of the battle to come. The two of them stood tall, shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the heavy steel door shuddering under the pressure from outside. In that instant, they both drew deep breaths, savoring every precious second of brief peace remaining. "They're coming," Liana whispered, but her voice held not a trace of fear. Aiden squeezed her hand gently, silently promising he would always protect her, no matter what. "We chose to stay, and that's the best decision I've ever made in my life. I have no regrets. Nothing is stronger than our love." Right then, the metallic crashing grew louder, fiercer. The steel door shook violently as if about to be torn from its hinges. Aiden and Liana shared one last, meaningful look. The look of lovers ablaze with passion, of warriors ready to fight to the very end for what they believed in. And then the door burst open, cold, emotionless pursuers pouring into the bunker, weapons gleaming in the faint light. But in that instant, Aiden and Liana were no longer two lone individuals. They had become one, a unified force that could not be defeated. The two rushed into battle, every move perfectly synchronized, powerful and decisive. Their hearts beat in unison, their breaths mingling as one, together overcoming all dangers and facing the most brutal trials life could throw at them. The fierce, violent battle echoed through the tiny bunker, but neither felt fear or doubt. Whenever one was in danger, the other rushed in to shield and protect the one they loved. Their love, strong as an infinite wellspring of strength, pushed them beyond every physical and mental limit. Finally, when the brutal struggle ended, the last of the pursuers fell and the bunker was silent once more. Aiden and Liana stood there, breathless and exhausted, but their eyes shone brighter, stronger than ever. They had won, not just because they defeated their enemies, but because they had successfully defended the love they had chosen. In that rare moment of calm, they turned to look deeply into each other's eyes again, eyes full of trust and fulfillment. Now they knew they were no longer alone. They had chosen to stay, to fight, and above all, they had chosen to love. And that love, stronger than all fear, stronger than any force of pursuit, would always be the power that brought them to victory, no matter what the future might bring.